a show just ensued, and we've got a lot of stuff to cover here in the premiere episode of Yards After the Catch. Rube, how the heck are you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. All the football fans that are here, we're excited to have you. We want you to enjoy this opportunity of just listening and joining in on all of the fun that we're going to have talking about football, college football, fantasy football. Stay tuned for a lot of news and fun and excitement.
Absolutely. No, this is definitely going to be one of the places you're going to want to stop all season long. And we're going to be here with you all preseason on Friday nights, 9:30, 8:30 Central. Once the season starts, we're going to hit you up every Tuesday night. We're going to help you get those waiver requests and decide which people you're going to want to sit and trade and get rid of, etc. We're going to just ride the whole season out with you, all while we manage our own fantasy football leagues, multiple, just like you, I'm sure. So before we really kick off the program today, I wanted to take just a quick minute to introduce ourselves from a fantasy football perspective, okay? That's provide a little bit of backstory into who we are, what we're doing here in the first place, because I want people to understand that we are truly just two guys yakking about fantasy football. You know what I mean, Root?
Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned veteran of 10, 20, 30 years, or if it's your first day on the job, it's still fun and you can still enjoy yourself.
Absolutely. I've been playing fantasy football for about 27 years now. I played my first league back in 1994. Made way too many trades. It was $3 a trade. I was playing with another guy, man. We ran up a bill. We didn't even make the playoffs, but that's how it goes, right? I have quite a few top 3 finishes, a few championships under my belt, but mostly, when it gets down to it, I'm just a dad from Washington State who enjoys fantasy football. How about you, Roop?
I'm actually just hit my 10-year mark, I believe. A lot of it was embarrassment, so we won't talk about those years. But I did have that one once a couple years back and a couple years of what happened. So it's definitely a challenge. Doesn't matter if you're, like I said, a veteran or a rookie. You can and will win, but it's going to take some work.
Yeah, and you're going to see that the work is where these things are won and lost. We're just, to kind of finish out the point, we're just a couple of Army veterans who are passionate about the game of football. We're passionate about fantasy football, and we want to share that passion with you. We hope you guys are going to share it with us and come all together in the spirit of good-natured competition. We hope we won't get too out of control, but we're going to have a good time. We're going to be respectful, open to other views. We hope you guys are as well. We're just going to step away from the real world for a little bit and yak about some football. How's that sound to you, Root?
I would love to yak about football. And most importantly, let's start off with giving Rob Machado for making up that killer track for us. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
You are the man. And we'll just get this party started.
Yeah, no, thank you again to Rob, Reverb Nation / Rob Machado. Again, iTunes, Spotify, all those good streaming devices, but look him up. He's got some really sick stuff on his site at the Reverb Nation. It's all free to download. It's all free to listen to. He loves to put it out there for you guys to enjoy, and we love putting it out there for you guys to hear as well. So we're just going to get into this fantasy football craziness. The season is less than a month away, and that means fantasy football is already well underway. Some of you have already drafted. Some of you are drafting next week. I prefer to draft the week before the season starts so I can clear out all the drops and injuries and trades and all that kind of stuff. But, most of us are in multiple leagues, and to be honest, I'm 5 this year, and so all within the last 2 to 3 weeks before the season starts. And I know you guys are as well. We're just going to start off every week with some of the biggest information that may have come out that you probably already know if you're really following, but this show's geared for everybody. So the rookies to the veterans, we're going to touch on some of the injuries that are being talked about right now, some of the big news, and we're just going to get right into that. So initially, I'm sure everybody knows by now that Cam Akers is gone for the season. So if you have him on your draft board, go ahead and take that down, but I'm sure you don't by now. So the next big one is Carson Wentz. Now, last week when we were putting the show together, Carson Wentz was going to be out, through the bye week, week 6, week 7 might come back. Now they're saying he might be ready for week 1. Now I got to tell you, I'm not sure how much impact this has on any of you. I don't know who is really looking at Wentz to be your QB1. There's a lot of optimism about it. So maybe he was going to be your QB2. Maybe you're going to pick him up for that last pick or something like that. But I don't know. What do you think about the Carson Wentz information?
I think there's too much speculation on it. And when it comes to drafting, unless he's out there practicing full pads, I would definitely be avoiding him in the early rounds, even the later rounds, because you don't want to draft a quarterback that's going to have a question mark right off the bat. You want to kind of avoid injuries, especially when it's preseason. You don't know what's going to happen. You can't avoid injuries in the middle of the season when you already started them. So right now we just pump the brakes on Wentz.
Yeah. The next thing, speaking of things to avoid, and I mean like the plague, Deshaun Watson. Boy, I tell you what, it's sad to see because he would have been a tier 1 quarterback on most people's boards, definitely high tier 2. And the mess continues. Grand jury out today. He is not going to be playing for a while. Some speculation on an injury, but it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of talk that whether he plays in the NFL again or not, he's probably never going to play for the Texans again. Who knows what's going on? It's been a lot of talk. The thing that you need to know from a fantasy perspective is to just take him off your board. I wouldn't even waste a late round, last round pick on him. Fill that roster spot with some flyer who might come in, because right now it's not going to be Deshaun Watson anytime soon.
Yeah, if you're going to wait on a quarterback and you're sitting there in the 13th round and you don't have any quarterbacks, maybe pick them with your last pick, but anybody else who's going to have another solid quarterback that's going to start is probably more beneficial than taking the flyer in the last round on someone who may not even play this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm not. There's always injuries and there's always things coming out, so I'm going to kind of whip through these a little bit. I'll stop on the big ones if you have anything to chime in with, but there are a lot of key things going on right now. Dak Prescott, he's probably on your board. He's definitely on mine. Just now, light throwing. He's not dropping any bombs yet, but they're very optimistic that they think he's definitely going to be ready for week 1. You may want to use your backup and you have a call to make in week 1. But he's definitely worth having on your team. Cam Akers, of course, out for the season. Sean Barkley is just came off the PUP list this week, and for some reason he's up there in number 5. Now I know you're a big believer in Barkley. There it is. So I'm not going to trash the guy too much. I believe he's an amazing talent. I hope he comes back healthy. We're definitely going to be talking about him more later on in the show. But he is off PUP, and he is still taking some rest days. They're very much easing him in. So we'll just see how the beginning of his season plays out. Stay tuned for that. Zach Moss out of Buffalo's got a hamstring injury going on. A lot of people looking for him for a handcuff situation or a backup running back to come on later on in the season. Just watch that with the hammies. Aaron Jones also with a hammy, still looks to be good for week 1, but keep an eye on him. Allen Robinson, same thing with a hammy. Tyreek Hill has knee tendonitis. He's had it for a while. They say he's good to go. He will be good to go. They've got their magic juice, magic shots that they use. He's probably going to have a lot of pain when he gets older and not be able to walk, but for this fantasy season, he's going to be one of your top guys still. Amari Cooper's off the PUP. He's looking good, they say. A lot of good things being said about him coming out of camp with Prescott and Cooper working out together, getting that vibe and that feeling together. So keep an eye on that, but looks good so far. Jefferson, big rookie last year. He's day-to-day with a shoulder injury. You're going to want to watch that one. He's definitely he might drop a little on your board, but you definitely don't want to take him off. But keep an eye on that. Just to see how bad it gets. Will it alter his output? I don't know. You got anything thus far, Root, that you want to try?
Anybody that is on this injury list, you want to make sure they're 100% if you're going to take them, especially in the early rounds, like Justin Jefferson. He is important to the team. If he's 100%, he's good to go. I would still take him a little bit later just because, but I would watch out for that and be aware of his injury. Make sure he's on that practice field in full pads.
Yeah, it's so hard to sleep on a situation like that because not everybody's going to. We're going to talk about that as well. Michael Thomas, of course, He's going to be out probably till week 7 because they got a week 6 bye week. I mean, they'll see how he's doing.
He wants to trade too.
Oh, of course he does. Devontae Smith, 2 to 3 weeks with MCL sprain. That means he'll probably still be good for week 1, but is he going to be 100%? Keep an eye on that. Curtis Samuel with a groin. May not start week 1. Definitely won't be 100%. DJ Chark, a lot of people looking at him. Finger surgery, but he is good to go, so they say. Shouldn't be a problem. Marquise Brown, a lot of people looking at him. Hammy again, but there is, I guess, is more serious than they thought. So keep an eye on that. He's probably on your list down the board. A lot of excitement with him this year, but keep an eye on that hamstring. Keep an eye on the situation just to see when he's going to start, when you can start putting him in your lineup. Galladay, hey, what do you know? Galladay's hurt again, right? He's going to miss a few weeks again. You felt this last year. You'll keep feeling it. He's not going to play all season. It's just never going to happen. But he's probably somewhere on your board again. Keep an eye on him. Rookie Bateman out of Baltimore, receiver. Again, a lot of big talk. Got a groin injury. He's missed some practices. Keep an eye on it. If he's on your board, Will Fuller did have an injury, but his injury seems to be good. But don't forget, he's suspended through week 2. All right. Hunter Henry is playing with an injury, probably rotating at best up there in New England at the tight end position, but he definitely could be on your board as far as talent and tight ends go. Just watch the COVID list, watch guys for long-term effects on that, and I think that's enough on injuries for this week, unless you have something to add in there, Root.
No, pay attention to injuries, but they adjust week to week, so just watch them, and let's get to the next step.
All right, let's move on to the next portion of the show. And we're going to start getting into the topics that we want to talk about because they're the topics that you want to talk about. We're going to start off the same as everybody did from that rookie perspective for the people that are just getting into this or thinking about getting into it. I don't know. People have asked me to play, and I don't know if I want to play. I don't know if I understand it, and that's okay. It's definitely one of those things to learn as you go. Just don't spend a lot of money learning. There's plenty of free leagues, plenty of free opportunities to do that. However, why play fantasy football? The big thing, and you had kind of brought this up, Roop, there it is skill versus luck. And that's something you got to kind of, especially as a beginner, first few years, you got to get comfortable with, is that there's definitely some of both going on in fantasy football.
Absolutely. There is a lot of luck involved, but you got to do your homework. There is skill that takes place in the draft, waiver wires, and let's just face it, you can have a league where you get all the right picks, but if you drop players like I have in the past, where I had CMC, Barkley, Dak, Odell, Joe Burrow, and they all got hurt that year, it devastated my season. So you can get lucky or you can be skilled. I mean, I still did well, but I didn't win. And injuries can ruin a fantasy season. But there are a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes to fantasy football. It doesn't matter if you're in PPR, standard, even in Dynasty. I just joined a Dynasty for the first time. Don't really know what's going on, but I'm trying my best to try to tackle that as well. So any of you Dynasty fans out there, come in and give me a shout. Let me know what I can do to make my team better, and I'll try to make yours better as well. You need to know your league. You have to know who wants what, or like if somebody's a Dallas fan, you know they're going to try to get Ezekiel Elliott in the first round. You have to pay attention to that. People are playing favorites or reaching too far in drafts. That can be beneficial to you if you know that. When it comes to a rookie, if this is your first year playing, don't do what I did and try to draft. I failed miserably. Go ahead and auto draft. You'll do a little bit better and just move on from there and then adjust and you'll get to learn things. But you have to know everything about that, the league type, the scoring. And when it comes to bye weeks, I always hear, don't draft a whole bunch of people on bye weeks. Well, here's the thing. In week 10, if you have 5 or 6 people on bye weeks from your draft, odds are you're not going to have the same team that you had week 1 compared to week 10. You have to pay attention that, like, it's okay to draft all those people that have the same bye week. You could trade, they'll be dropped, there'll be injuries. all of those things matter, and it is important to like not just draft because he's good, but he has the same draft day. Doesn't matter. You got to move on from that. Draft him anyway and see what happens.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely get into all that, how to draft, what things to look for. But yeah, you make a good point about the auto draft. Don't be afraid of it. Use it. I've gotten accidental drafts, forgot the draft date or whatever, and come out pretty good with a team that I can work with. And that's really what it's going to come down to. And we are definitely going to get into working your team over the season because it's something you're going to have to do as the season goes on. But first of all, rule number one in fantasy football is absolutely do your homework. All right, guys, look, drafts win games, and this is something that drafts will get you some games. This auto draft, if you just took an auto draft and played it out, aside from your bye weeks and some injuries, you'd probably still win some games. You're not going to make the playoffs, but you'd win some games. The waiver wire wins championships. Drafts win games. Waiver wire wins championships. You're going to have to work this waiver wire. Injuries are going to happen. You're going to mess something up and you're going to have 6 players all with the same bye week. It happened to me last year for 2 different bye weeks. It just so happens, coincidentally, I'm quite sure that a lot of the top board players end up with the same bye week. It's weird, but it happens all the time. So you're going to have to work this. And of course, injuries, you can't say enough about injuries. And then there's just positions that you don't need to put a lot of thought into. I'm talking about the kicker. I'm talking about the tight end, because you can usually plug and play those on the waiver wire if you're paying attention. So do your homework before the draft, but you're going to have to do the homework all season.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't do your homework, it's game over. You can't sit there and expect your team to win. And if you're looking like something's not working, go ahead and make a trade. Have some fun with it. But also go ahead and talk a little bit of trash. Even if you're losing, have some trash talk. It's a lot of fun. Fantasy football is about showing your friends that you're better than they are. Show them.
Yeah, you gotta strut. You gotta walk in the room with your head high, like you know what's going on. Because we go talk about the luck versus skill thing again. It happens every year where someone will take a flyer and someone will just take a chance on somebody, and that guy will come out and carry your season. I remember last year I took Mike Davis because I didn't have the first pick, so I wasn't getting McCaffrey, but I wanted that handcuff, and sure enough, McCaffrey goes down, and Mike Davis does very well for me for quite a few weeks until he got hurt as well. So these things happen. You take chances. If you don't know, go with your gut and take a chance, but do your homework so you know who to take a chance on. At least there's players out there that you'll recognize the name. But they're probably not going to do much. Dylan is a perfect example. Used to start, and now he's on another team, and he's in a backup role. And you might know the name from being a football fan, but from a fantasy perspective, he's not going to have a lot of value for you at the beginning of the season. So we touched on bye weeks a little bit. Just be careful. Watch your roster. Make sure you're checking up your lineup every week. You already touched on it is important during the draft, but it's not the end all be all because you can work away a waiver wire. You can get value and possibly make a trade later. So don't let it dictate your draft, but pay attention.
Yeah, you got to pay attention. You got to pay attention to things like strength of schedule. You don't want someone in a tough defense, and that's your number one wide receiver going against one of the toughest defenses throughout the season. It can cost you. When you talk about someone like DeAndre Hopkins, when he goes up against someone like Jalen Ramsey in Week 17, he had 4 catches for 35 yards, something like that. That's not going to win you games, and no one wants to sit, high-profile players, but you got to pay attention to some of those stats when you're playing some of those more elite defenses. I'm not saying sit them. I'm just saying if you have somebody else who has a better ceiling and a safer floor, go ahead and use those players because sometimes Those harder ones are just, it's a hard call, and you'll be looking at it 5 minutes before game time, 30 seconds, you'll be checking your phone, and you don't know what to do, and you'll be panicking. That's when you just go with your gut and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember that strength of schedule goes both ways. So you can look at your strength of schedule to see if your quarterback is going to have a good season, but also remember that it goes the other way with defenses. So keep an eye on that. Understand what you're positioning and understand, and you touched on this, your league type and your scoring. Look, if you're in a dynasty league, I promise you it's a completely different game than a regular run PPR, a standard, even a keeper league. And you need to understand how far out you need to be looking. If you're just playing in a league where it changes every single year, you redraft and you reposition, that's, build your team for this year. But if you're in a keeper league, you might be looking to next year. If you're in a dynasty league, you're looking years down the road. So you're really trying to find value and find guys that are going to be around for a while, because it is a daunting task to replace a talent. I feel for the people that had to replace Drew Brees, someone like Drew Brees or something like that. When these top guys retire, when Tom Brady goes out, dynasty guys are loving Tom Brady right now because he's stuck around a heck of a lot longer and he's still putting up value. But understand the league that you're in and understand the scoring. You've got to understand where the points are going to be, because there's a lot of different ways to alter scoring. Some quarterbacks get 4 points for throwing a touchdown. Some get 6 for throwing a touchdown. Is your running back and receiver, are they getting 1 point for every 10 yards? Or are they getting 1 point for every 25 yards? Is there a bonus for hitting 100 yards, 150? Is there a bonus for 10 catches? Or, PPR league, you're getting a point for every ball that someone catches. And so that's a completely different list. Your running backs especially are going to fall and raise in a PPR league versus a standard scoring league. So understand how your league scores when you're getting ready to draft and when you're replacing players.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. Pay attention, watch with the draft, watch the points, check the rules, check the scoring. It will help you, but still, if you're a rookie, just auto draft. Don't make the mistakes I already done.
Don't get caught up in past performance either. Just because someone did good last year doesn't mean they're going to do good this year. You got to pay attention to the whole picture. I call it consistency versus realistic expectations. Did someone have a great year last year, or have they been having a great year for the past few fantasy seasons? You brought up Hopkins already, so I just bring him up. He's top 10 receiver, I think, for the last 4 or 5 years running. And we'll get into that more. But, then you've got guys like we're going to talk about Adam Thielen, did very well, had a very high touchdown percentage, put up a lot of points because of that. I think he was like 40% touchdown rate on his catches. But that doesn't mean he's going to be a fantasy beast, especially with Jefferson over there stealing a lot of catches. You just happen to have a lot of touchdowns. I'm not saying he won't. I'm just saying he may not be one of your top 5 guys. Or even top 10 receivers, just because he had a big score. So consistency versus realistic expectations, which brings me to the supporting cast as well. Understand the team that they're playing on. Who did they lose? Did the quarterback change? Did they move from one team that didn't have a good quarterback and now they do, or vice versa? So understand the team around them. Root, go ahead.
It is important. You also want to look at something like stacks, or when you see a running back quarterback situation or tight end quarterback, that's important to, like, hey, maybe I can get this stack and help my team out a little bit. It might cost you on a bye week where you have 2 elite players and stuff like that coming and sitting on your bench, but I'll take the rest wins if I can get it.
Yeah, and the other thing is people will steal from other players. You've got, happens with running backs all the time. They'll do all the work to get down the field, to get to the goal line, and in comes the other guy to steal that touchdown for you. I've lost so many games like that. Maybe the whole entire receiving core is good. It's one of the teams where they really like to pass the ball around. If you're trying to work off Tom Brady's receivers, you're going to run into this a lot because he's good at spreading the ball around. in a PPR league, you might not score as much because you're not going to have that star receiver with 10 catches. Everybody's going to have 4 or 5. So yeah, keep an eye on that as well. Age and injuries. People get older, they start getting more injured, especially when you see an older player who comes down with an injury, even though they come back, especially at the running back position. Just be careful. Watch that. As a young player, you can get away with it, but the older players, you're definitely going to want to pay attention, because as we get older, and I can attest, it's a little harder to heal up.
Absolutely. When you're just trying to sit there and get out the couch, it's a little harder. Some of these players, they bounce off that ground like it's not a problem, but it is a hard surface, and they do get injured. So pay attention to, every play, watch as much as you can, and have fun with it.
And this ain't hockey. Guys aren't playing with broken limbs and stuff like that. I mean, they get turf toe and they're gone for weeks, because my toe hurts. And turf toe does hurt. But hey, you're gonna pay $1 million, go catch the ball, guy. And don't get caught up on these ADPs. Look, we're even going to talk about the ADPs. And that's the average draft position, where people are getting drafted. The list is always out there. It's constantly being updated. Where can you expect to get this player? Don't get caught up too much in it. It gives you an idea, but what you have to remember is the wild card factor. Look, the ADP lists are created from experts and from professional sites. So you got all the drafts on Yahoo, and they calculate where that player got taken in every single draft on Yahoo, and now you get an ADP. So it's over millions of drafts, first of all. But this is a professional site, and if you're getting it from the experts, these are from experts who spend a lot of time looking at this stuff and kind of gauge where people should go. And you see that you can wait on that quarterback because his average draft position's in the 7th, and then he gets drafted in the 1st round by some guy who likes that team, like that you brought up already, or
favorites.
Yeah, rookies ruin a draft every year, and I don't say ruin. I use ruin with love, because they throw everything off. I love it when people just take that guy you thought you were going to get later on, and then someone drafts Kittle in the 3rd round, and it's like, what the fuck just happened? It happened. It happens all the time. You can ask any fantasy footballer.
Yeah, when I go ahead and draft against you, I don't plan to reach too far, except maybe 1 or 2 players, but I won't tell you, Mr. Chris Fox, what that's going to be. But try not to reach when you're drafting. You can stay within reason. We can talk about, your top 5s or your tiers. We need to understand that, you don't have to go too far. A lot of people do drafting online. If your player is on that first page, go ahead and draft somewhere in there. If you're reaching that 2nd or 3rd page, you've gone too far, and you're reaching way too far than you should be. I don't care if you're a Cowboys fan or Chargers fan. Don't have to reach. This is not play favorites. You have to play to win. And I'm telling you, your team isn't the one that's going to take you. You can't get all the players off that team. Enjoy it. Have fun. Fantasy football will make you a fan of a lot of teams, but still keep your love for your own team. That's perfectly okay.
Yeah, I tell people all the time. They ask me what my favorite football team is, and obviously it's the Steelers, and that is true. But during fantasy season, I become a fan of players and not so much teams. So, yeah, that's definitely something to look at. And that's going to bring us to our next thing: draft strategies. Okay, look, there are a lot of strategies out there. Some people will tell you no running backs in the 1st round. Some will take you, nothing but running backs for the first 2 rounds. Wide receiver heavy, running back heavy. Tight end in the 3rd round. I mean, fill up your roster first. I happen to like to fill my starters before I start getting too far into my bench. But the thing that you really want to do is just let the value fall to you. And we're going to be talking about fantasy values. We're going to talk about top 100 lists versus tier lists, things like that. But honestly, just let the value fall to you. You may have been planning to take a running back in this round, but man, that Kelsey's still on the board. So don't grab a running back, grab Kelsey, because I promise you in the 1st round, all the top tier running backs are already gone. It's I guarantee all your top tier running backs are gone in the first round. So if you're not in the first round and there is someone of real value sitting there in front of you at the running back, or excuse me, at the wide receiver / tight end position, grab the value. Don't plan your whole draft out based on position.
Yeah, that first round is really important. It doesn't matter what position you're in, whether you're first, in the middle, or last. Most of the time we're talking about a 12-team league here. The running backs are going to go quick in the first spot. Then you get your best, tier 1 wide receivers. I mean, if you're sitting there at 12 and you're a Kansas City fan, something tells me you're going to take Kelsey and Mahomes, around the turn and just say, hey, you got yourself a stack. So, I mean, it's not frowned upon. And then you can just work on your, running backs and wide receivers for, the next 10 rounds. So just pay attention to where your draft position is actually at. Also, do a mock draft wherever your position is. Find that spot and then just see who falls to you in every single round. It'll be important in the long run, especially those later rounds when you don't know who to pick or you don't know or recognize the names. It's important to mock draft just to see where people land. I know people who don't mock draft and do perfectly fine, but they get lucky, and that's where sometimes the luck comes in.
Yeah, I'll get caught up in a mock draft, and I'll want to draft the same team that I did in the mock draft. So I do have to be careful when I mock draft. But you're absolutely right; it's a fantastic tool just to kind of see where people are going and where you can take them. You talk about taking Mahomes and Kelsey in that 12th pick, and I don't think anybody would fault you for that. But if you took Kelsey and Edwards-Helaire, you probably get laughed out of your draft room. Because that would be the wrong way to go on that. You definitely could wait on Helaire, and Mahomes is probably going to go pretty quick regardless of ADP, which is why I say don't pay attention to ADP. So these are things that you're going to want to watch out for. Maybe you've been playing for a while already and you already know this stuff. Maybe you've kind of been playing. Hopefully you took something away from that. But we're going to start getting into the players that you're going to want to look for. This is week 1, right? So we're going to hit the top tier guys. You're already going to be looking at these guys. We might surprise you with something else. We originally put together these lists as a top 5 thing, and then I kind of got thinking about it, and we talked about it, and I really kind of like the tier system a little bit better. And the reason I like the tier system is because of what we said about letting the value fall to you. If you get stuck on this list of top 100 wide receivers or top 100 running backs, you're going to be looking at your running back list, and you're going to miss a real good wide receiver that you could have had. You're going to miss out on Kelsey because you were too busy looking at your wide receiver list to see which wide receiver you wanted to take. So I like to do a tier list because you can cross the people off. And what a tier list is, if you don't know, you've got your top guys. That's your top tier. These are the guys that you believe are just going to blow the doors off everyone else. Top tier 2 are the guys that are really, really good, just not quite as good as the first ones. The guys that if the first ones are gone, you would start dipping into your tier 2, and then so on and so forth. So as you cross people off these tiers, when you get in that 5th, 6th round and you've got 1 running back and 3 wide receivers, you might want to get into your running back tier. Or if you need a quarterback, if you're sitting there at two running backs and 3 wide receivers, you don't want to get caught looking at your wide receiver list and pick up that 4th wide receiver when you might miss out on a really great quarterback. So you can look at your tier list, look at the top tier of your positions and be like, oh man, there's still a top tier guy in this position. Again, let the value fall to you. Maybe I should go grab that guy.
Yeah, Samuel, go ahead and text your message. But yeah, when you talk about tiers, just because your tier is gone, it doesn't mean you have to play by the tier. It's going with these are the guys, the top guys that are the professionals with all the analytics, with all the things that they run. They are supposed to be roughly at the top. So when you move from one tier to the other, it doesn't mean like, oh, well, this is the last quarterback in tier 1. I have to take him now. You don't have to do that. This is just if he falls to you in the appropriate amount of time that you feel that your team is set enough, go ahead and take him then. So tiers is a guidance for you. That is all.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. It's funny that we do this, and I want to bring this. We're going to talk about quarterbacks first, and everybody does. It's the first list you look at, everything and it makes sense from a flow perspective. But ironically, quarterbacks, not the well, I'm not going to get into it. We're going to talk about quarterback first. With quarterbacks, again, we're talking top tiers. These are things. When I'm looking for a quarterback, all right, I'm looking for a consistency and I'm looking for the supporting cast. So, how have they been performing over the last few years? Unless, of course, they're a rookie or they only got 1 year to the resume, but how have they been performing? And then who do they have around them? I personally wouldn't have thought that Deshaun Watson has the year that he has without Hopkins, and I was wrong, and a lot of us were. But I would have definitely moved Watson, and did in fact move Watson way down my draft board when he lost Hopkins. There's some of these top guys that we're going to be talking about in Allen and a Murray. Even Rodgers is bringing Cobb back. He's trying to up his supporting cast. Tom Brady is making his people look really, really good. Not that they weren't good, but they're even better now that Tom Brady's there. Things like that. The players around it. And I look at the supporting cast for two things. Number one, how can the supporting cast help your player be successful? But also in a situation, we're definitely going to talk about Calvin Ridley and their brand new amazing tight end down there. But are they going to steal touches away from each other? So it's just something to consider when you talk about supporting cast. But we are on quarterback. So what I look for is that consistency at supporting cast. I'm going to look at the schedule. I don't want to play the top tier defenses too many times if I don't have to. Or when I look at that schedule, I might look for my backup based on that schedule. So somebody I want to replace them in those couple tough weeks that they might not do so well. So a thing I want to bring up is since 2016, all right, and this is the stuff that you're going to want to know. Since 2016, or the year they got drafted, Allen, Murray, Rodgers, Mahomes, Wilson, Prescott, and also Watson have finished in the top 10. Now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players right there filling at the top 10, and they've been there every year since 2016. Obviously, Allen and Murray haven't been in the league since 2016, but since they've been there, they've been in the top 10. So this automatically puts them up towards the top of my tier list. They're there. That's their consistency. Allen, Murray, Rodgers, Mahomes, Wilson, Prescott, and Watson. Again, there's no surprises here that these guys are here. You already knew that. Obviously, Prescott wasn't there last year because he was hurt, but they've been in the top 10 every time. So these guys pique my interest. Okay, the league is changing. All right, we are in such a pass-happy league now, and it's something that you need to pay attention to. Go ahead, Rube.
Actually, I want to touch base quick. Samuel asked, should I trade Kelsey for Darren Waller and Keenan Allen? And I love Kelsey. He's probably going to be the #1 tight end again. But Darren Waller and Keenan Allen is a good position. If you are hurting for wide receivers, you can go ahead and take that bet. But I would watch Darren Waller, make sure everybody's healthy. You know, some people like to see, like, here's a good trade value. If they were perfectly healthy, that's a great trade. But you got to pay attention to, like, maybe if everybody's starting, I would probably wait till the beginning of the season before I would pull the trigger on that. It is nice. If you're a KC fan, you're probably going to hold on. But, I mean, it's all about winning. Darren Waller and Keenan Allen are healthy. I would jump on that because the difference between Waller and Kelsey, how many points is that really going to be? Is it going to be enough to save you? And if you're hurting for wide receivers, Keenan Allen's a good shoe-in right there. So I would take that bet if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, and that's what you're going to like about this show, guys, is we're not going to agree on everything. I'm going to disagree with Roop on that one. I wouldn't take it. You make some great points, and I'm not going to argue against your points at all because you're definitely spot on. But here's what you need to know about tight ends, okay? Tight ends over the last 5 years, Kelsey is literally the only one to be at the top of the list every single year. I think in 2015, he was second to Gronkowski in the standard scoring, but he was still first for PPR. So other than that, Kelsey is top standard or PPR for tight ends every single year, whereas everybody below him is somebody different. Tight ends are just so inconsistent or so volatile. I'm not saying Waller's not going to do good. He's definitely prototypical. He's definitely had a lot of success. Same coaches, same system, same quarterback. So you would expect to have somewhere near the same success. But I'd like to know better than probably. I'd rather have a definite. So I would probably keep Kelsey personally. That's a tough decision because Keenan Allen is in the mix there. And so you're filling 2 roster spots versus 1, but you're hoping that Waller repeats when it's pretty much a guarantee, barring injury, that Kelsey's going to repeat. So it's really just, do you want to take the chance or go with what there never is a sure thing in the NFL?
Yeah, that's actually a really good trade question, and we do appreciate it because that's a tough one. It's 51-49 right now for me, and it can
Yeah.
slide to either side. So
yeah, no, that's good. To get back on the quarterback thing, in 2020, there were, well, let's go back a couple years. Go 2018. 2018, okay, there were 3 quarterbacks in the entire league that scored more than 240 points. All right, 2019, there was only two quarterbacks in the entire league that scored 240 points. Standard scoring, obviously, because PPR doesn't really count. In 2020, however, because the way things are changing, there was 10 quarterbacks getting over 240. So the tiers have just jumped as the NFL really tries to highlight this passing game. So quarterbacks have a lot more value to you. However, it also makes it so there's a couple more, there's more options out there, so you don't necessarily have to grab right away. Again, you're going to see somebody grab a quarterback, especially in a 12-team league, in the first or second round, especially coming around that horn most likely at 12. There's a vast jump for improvement between the players, quarterbacks. Sorry, I just lost my screen here. Apologize, folks. There we go. Sorry about that. So when you talk about 2019 versus 2020, 2019, Lamar Jackson is the man, and by a lot as far as quarterbacks go. Last year, he comes in at number 10. But the funny thing is, the points are definitely drastic. 421 in 2019, 341. So there's an 80-point difference there. But that 2019 year with Lamar Jackson, he was 80 points above anybody. So second place had as many points as Lamar Jackson did last year. The point difference, the way the league is going now, is absolutely ridiculous. Dak Prescott, of course, was first. Jameis Winston was number 3 in 2019. A lot of interceptions that year. Still finished third best quarterback in the league for fantasy points. So wrap your head around that for a minute. Russell Wilson at 4. Deshaun Watson was there, of course, who were taking out of the conversation. Get this. This is the one that really blew my mind. Josh Allen came in at 6, Kyler Murray at number 7, and Patrick Mahomes at number 8 in 2019. Guess who 1, 2, and 3 were last year? It was Josh Allen, Murray, and Aaron Rodgers. Patrick Mahomes was 4th. But right there, they go from 6, 7, 8 to 1, 2, and 4, just like that. Carson Wentz, number 9 in 2019. Go ahead and put him at number 9 now if you want to. And Aaron Rodgers jumps from 10 in 2019, again, up to number 3 for 2020. So your list might reorder itself, but I don't think that there's going to be a lot of surprises in the top tier guys. Be careful with ADP here. But my top tier guys, hands down, is going to be Mahomes. It's going to be Allen. It's going to be Murray. I'm putting Wilson in there because, again, he's consistent. And I'm putting Rodgers on there because I think Rodgers is going to be playing with a vengeance this year. I think he's got something to prove. He's bringing guys in, and he's really going to want to win. So I'm putting Rodgers in my top tier. I know you guys want me to put Brady up there, but I'm not. I'm putting him in my tier 2 just because his point totals are not usually through the roof. He's still top 10 guy, but they're not tier 1 numbers for me. And Prescott, of course, we got to wait to see how he comes off this injury. Again, top 10 guy pretty much ever since he's been in the league, but we got to watch the shoulder.
Yeah, I do like your tier, and understand these tiers don't have to be, 10 deep. That's not how the tiers work. They could be smaller. You can break them up. I mean, really think about it. There's only 12 people that are going to get picked in the first round, no matter how deep your tiers are. So for my tier 1 for QB is going to be Mahomes, Allen, and Murray. No particular order.
No.
I feel like they're going to be well off this year. Murray's got a few extra weapons. Mahomes has been consistent. He's going to probably be that way for a long time coming. And Allen had a wonderful season last year. Just because you have a wonderful season last year doesn't mean he's going to repeat. He has the weapons, but I thought Lamar Jackson was going to repeat also, and I had him on my team last year, and it didn't pay off.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. Your tier, look, we're going to talk about this as we go across these positions. Look, tier are different than your ranking list. By the numbers, by the points, every year your top tier numbers are roughly around 6 to 7 guys. Okay. At number 6, the point drop off last year is 22 points, which is significant. It goes from 350 to 372, Tannehill up to Wilson. And, of course, Josh Allen finished with 405. So there's another 50-point spread there, even within that tier. So, yeah, your top tier guys, really, there's not going to be a big list there, which is why we wanted to cover it for the positions today. Let's see. So, I like your picks as well. Obviously, only holding up the 3. They're the safe picks. Again, we're not shocking anybody on these top round picks right here. Maybe you might have a little different opinion when we get to the running back and wide receivers. But good picks: Mahomes, Allen, Murray for both of us. And then I went ahead and threw Wilson, Rodgers, and in there as well. So let us know. How do we do? What do you guys think? So we're going to
tier 2 for the quarterbacks. I did have Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, and I did have Dak last year, and it devastated me when he went down. But if he's healthy, he's got a good running back, wide receiver core, and if he repeats what he did, I mean, he was going to break some records if he kept that pace up last year. So I'm just keeping him there, but with caution, because got to watch those injuries.
Yeah, look, we're going to talk about tier 2 next week, and that's when we're going to get these guys that you guys are having questions about right now. Lamar Jackson, especially Lamar Jackson, is on a lot of lists. He's up there at the top. He's just not a tier 1 guy, I don't think, this year as of right now. He's got a lot of talent around him, but he's going to be of course, he's going to run the ball. Hopefully he can get the ball downfield. They play in a tough division, but Lamar Jackson is not someone I'm going to argue with you about being on your top 10 list or in your first 2 tiers. But again, are you going to take Lamar Jackson over Mahomes? Are you going to take Lamar Jackson over Allen or Murray? I don't think you are. I hope you're not, to be perfectly honest about it. And that's where we're getting into our tier 1s versus tier 2s. So as we go into this, don't worry, we didn't forget about Jackson. We didn't forget about Prescott. We didn't forget about Brady. He's just not, we're going to take these other guys first. All right. So running backs, again, I'm looking for a consistency, durability, supporting cast. Here's some fun numbers. Of the top 25 running backs in 2020, last year, the top 25, only 3 played all 16 games, only 3. All right, 10 of them did in 2019. Only 3 did last year. And you can automatically tell me, oh, well, some guys sat for week 17. Some guys sat because they're already in the playoffs, and that's true. They did, but it's still an astonishing number to me. And we talk about the separation. We talk about these tiers, right? So again, tier 1 at your running back should really only have about 4 guys in it. I could maybe see 5, but here's what you need to know. Last year, the difference between number 3 and number 4 was 89 points in your standard league. Okay, the difference between your 4th running back and 3rd running back, that'd be Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook, and your standard scoring was an 89-point spread there. Okay, if that's not a tier 1, tier 2 difference, I don't know what is. In PPR, it was 69-point difference between Montgomery and Henry. So, you can argue with me about where guys should be in this whole tier system all you want, but I mean, there's your evidence right there. Only the top 7 even broke 200 points in standard scoring. Okay, so when you're reaching, you talked about this already. There it is. Look, I understand someone may do well, but you've got to understand that these top tier guys, and I'm just going to expose some of my picks. This Kamara, Cook, Henry, and of course C-Mac, they're going to most likely not just outscore other guys, they're going to really outscore other guys.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to watch. I mean, running backs change each week, each year. It's okay. They get hit the most, so it's a little scary. You have to watch who you pick. You want to watch to make sure. I mean, are they stacking the box against them because they have no wide receivers? That's going to downplay some of these running backs. You have to make sure that it's a balanced team. And it's kind of important about defense when it comes to running backs, because if defenses are shutting down the other team, they're probably going to run the ball a little bit more, and your player's going to get a little bit more. So pay attention to that as well.
Yeah, so it's definitely something you got to pay attention to. Look, tier 1, if C-Mac isn't your number 1, you're just not paying attention. Okay, you can look at, again, kind of like Kelsey, just dial it back over the years. He's number 1 every time in standard, in PPR. He gets the yards, he gets the catches, he gets the touchdowns, he gets the scores. C-Mac should be your number 1 guy. And yes, I got it. Injuries, but he's a young kid. He's a healthy kid. They're not going to bring him back. He's had all last season and all the way up to this season to get it fixed and get it right. So C-Mac should definitely be the top of your list, at least in your top tier. He just should. Look, 2019, he was 50 points above Lamar Jackson as the top player. He was 80 points above RB2 for the year. He was 157 points above RB2 in PPR. So if you're PPR, especially, you want C-Mac on your squad. He's just the total package. The rest of the tier for me, again, not really that rough. I've got C-Mac, I've got Cook, I've got Henry, and I've got Kamara. And that's standard or PPR. You can reorder those with the exception of C-Mac. Cook, Henry, and Kamara were 2, 3, 4, with technically 1, 2, 3 last year for standard, and Kamara, Cook, and Henry were 1, 2, 3 for PPR. So same 3 guys, regardless of the scoring package. Some of you guys are like, where's Aaron Jones? Where's Ezekiel Elliott? Hey, look, we don't know how Dak's going to do, and that's going to dictate how Elliott does. So Elliott's going to make my tier 2. Aaron Jones, again, Rodgers is going to be playing with a vengeance. Is he going to dump the ball to Aaron Jones, or is he going to want to run the ball as much? I don't know. Aaron Jones is definitely top. My second tier, he's in the middle. I'm calling him tier 1.5 because I can't put him in that top tier, knowing that there's only usually 3 or 4 guys, and that point spread is 89 points, 70 for PPR. So, but Aaron Jones is definitely on my 1.5.
Yeah, I do like those picks for sure. Tier 1, tier 2. Listen, if you're drafting number 1, you don't have to worry about your pick. You already know you're taking CMC, C-Mac.
Yeah.
You're taking them.
All day.
You don't have to think about it. Take them and worry about what's happening in rounds 2 and 3. So my tier 1 is Christian McCaffrey. That's it. He is the
There
only
you
one that
go.
I'm thinking, like my tier is this small and it's him. He's the only one. So
Yeah.
we're going to move on to tier 2. Cook, Henry, and Kamara, of course, those are safe bets. Kamara's been up in the top 3 seems like since he came in this league, and I know it's a surprise, and I'm hoping he comes back. Is Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, you're not alone.
He can be a beast, especially in PPR. If he is actually still injured and he's not coming back week 1, if you're like in a standard league, I would go with somebody like Chubb. He has great defense behind him, and they're going to end up running the ball a lot. They got a pretty decent schedule, and PPR, he's not going to get as much, but he's still going to score you points. He is, their lead back. So he is another great person to have just to keep an eye on if you didn't get some of those earlier guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, if he does come back, and we've had this talk, I am not big on him because I don't trust the injury. The guy's played 15 games in 2 seasons. You get slow, you get sore, you get lazy, and I'm not saying he is that way. I'm saying it happens. But yeah, I mean, he's 2019. He played 13 games. He was still top 10 in standard scoring, and you mentioned PPR, 10 again in PPR, and he only played 13 games. The guy's a beast. He's got the skill set, and now he's got some talent around him. Is that going to cost him, or is that going to help him? We'll find out in the season. You are not alone on Barkley at all. We're going to find out together if he's back or if he's busted. So I agree with you putting that out. I know a lot of people out there are going to be screaming at us about Chubb. Look, Chubb is split in the backfield with Hunt. They still finished 9-10 last year in standard scoring. So just because there's 2 of them in there doesn't mean they both can't score. Not quite so high Chubb higher in PPR than Hunt, but they're going to steal points from each other. They're just not my top one, tier 1 guys. We'll find out next week if they make my tier 2. I'm also real big on Najee Harris, so tune in to see where he's going to land on my tier and Roop's tier as well. Plus, we want to know where they land on your tier. Let us know how we're doing based on your picks and what you would do.
Yeah, I do like Harris, and he's going to get the rock. So let's send it. So let's move on to wide receivers. I have in my tier 1 Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Stephon Diggs. I went a little bit heavy on the wide receiver this week, just because I'm not sure the separation of points that's going to happen between who else is on their team, the strength of schedule, their quarterback situation. Like with Calvin Ridley, with Julio Jones being gone, Calvin Ridley's points actually went up when Julio was off the field. So he's going to be a beneficial playmaker when it comes to that. And we'll talk about, who replaced Julio Jones' targets coming up a little bit later. That's my tier 1. And in tier 2, I'm going to move on to Metcalf, A.J. Brown, and Justin Jefferson. I think they're not far behind, if not a few points behind. But they do kind of seem like they're going to get about the same amount of points as each other in that tier 2. Any of those picks are safe picks. Doesn't matter where you grab them. Obviously, you're not taking them, number 1, number 2, number 3. But, those are a good roundabout, like safe ceiling and floor picks.
Yeah, no, they definitely maybe into round 3. I can definitely see that depending on how you're drafting some of those guys possibly getting on board, especially how many people are in your league. If you're playing 12, 14 team league, you can definitely start seeing those guys come off the board. In 2019, only 2 wide receivers even cracked the top 44 for overall players. So, but how that bounces off is when we talk about how many people are in the top tiers, right? So, like I said, your tier 1 running backs, they're going to be gone in the first round. They just are within the first 6 picks. They're going to be gone. Your tier 1, most of your tier 1 guys are going to be gone in the first round. I've seen drafts where you got a bunch of tier 1 guys, and then someone takes Waller in the first round, and everybody's staring at each other going, well, that's kind of a reach, but it happens. The the guys that we're talking about now, these are round 1, round 2 people. If they're not gone in as far as your running backs, if they're still there, you need to grab them. But same with the wide receivers, because in the top 25 PPR, there were 6, and that's PPR. This is people getting graded for catching the ball, and there were only 6 receivers in the top 25 for PPR in 2019, 7 for 2020. So PPR, your receivers, you would think are the ones getting you all your PPR points, but again, 7 in the top 26. That's just crazy. And then you also had Kelsey and Waller in there, so 9 pass catchers out of 26. It's amazing. That's for the whole league, of course. The other thing you talk about the consistency. Look, in 2019, you had Thomas, you had Goodwin, you had Galladay, you had Kupp, you had Julio Jones, Devontae Parker, and Hopkins all sitting in as those top receivers. In 2020, the names changed to Adams and Hill and Diggs and Ridley, Metcalf, Jefferson, Thielen, Evans breaks in, A.J. Brown, and Hopkins again. Same with PPR, Adams, Hill, Diggs, Hopkins, Ridley, Jefferson, Metcalf. So the names are different. Kupp's not there anymore. Julio's not there anymore. Keenan Allen for PPR was there in 19, not there in 20. Obviously, Michael Thomas is there in 19, obviously not there in 20 because of the injury, and won't be there likely again this year. But the names change. It's inconsistent. You're talking about supporting cast. You're talking about the other people around. Look, this is how fantasy football goes, and this is what we're talking about when we talk about do the homework. You talked about the spread, tier 1 to tier 2 in the standard. After the first 2 guys, there's a 40-point difference. Okay, in PPR, again, 40-point difference between number 3 and number 4 through 8. So it's these tiers are important. You don't grab that top guy who last year was Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. You're losing 40 points just going with Stephon Diggs. And again, these guys are gone in the first 2 rounds, depending on if they make it around the horn or not. But there is a difference between taking a Calvin Ridley, who's tier 2, and then reaching for Thielen, who's 80 20, 30, 40, 50 points back, depending on where you get them. So do your homework. Tier 1 for me is still Adams and Hill. Again, I know these names change, but I don't see any reason for those 2 names to change barring injury. And then I just kind of rolled out right down the line with in my tier 2 people. I don't see a lot of reason for these names to change. I think Diggs is going to be there. I agree. Metcalf is going to be there. I actually have Hopkins in there. And of course, Ridley's definitely in my tier 2 as well, because I think he was awesome. He just really broke out last year. And now with Pitts down there, I think it's going to open up his routes. And I think he's going to catch a few more balls. But there you go. That's my top tier guys, Roop.
Yeah, I like your picks. You're right about all of them. And, you can sit there and later on in the first round and all those top tier running backs are gone. You might have to think, do I just reach for a running back or do I go, back-to-back wide receiver and make those other guys sweat a little bit that your wide receiver core is going to be solid. So these are what you have to decide. Normally, within about 2 minutes, you have to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why mock draft does play a part. So if we're going to move on to the tight ends, my tier 1 is Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. I know Kelsey is going to be the number 1 tight end off the board. If he's not, you're playing favorites, and it might cost you. Someone's going to be really happy that you did. Only reason why I'm putting them all there is because I think Waller is kind of like the guy there in Las Vegas as well. And Kittle, he reminds me a lot of Derrick Henry, where he's going to run you over. That guy plays with.
I love the way Kittle plays. I absolutely love the way he is just smash mouth football all day.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen some of those highlights, but when he's carrying 3 dudes and just tossing them around, it's
Yeah.
just like Derrick Henry does. And I'm like, yes, I want that guy on my team because he's not just going to take a hit and fall down. He's there to win. And Kittle is one of my top tier guys as well. If I go to tier 2, I'm looking at Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, and Kyle Pitts. No in particular order. They're just they're the top tier 2 guys that I would go with. I'm going to keep it real short and simple because it's a huge fall off in tight ends. It is probably one of the, if you don't get some of those earlier guys in tight ends, just wait because don't waste your time.
Yeah.
You're good. The odds of you missing on an earlier pick, it could cost you. And if you do get a tight end early, you don't have to worry about that position. But if you miss on those guys, just wait and pick them in the later rounds, and you'll be 2, 3, 5 points less each week for sure. But you could get a solid core of the rest of your team first. That'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. This is a waiver wire pickup. A lot of people will tell you, to take the tight end with your last pick, unless you're getting one of these top tier guys. My tier 1 is Kelsey. That's my only guy as well. Kelsey last year led the league by 38 and 34 points, respectively, for standard and PPR scoring. Tier 2 even usually only has 1 to 2 guys. Historically, you can go back and look at the years, see where they're sitting. Again, they're all sitting at least 40 points back behind Kelsey. But you've got, I agree that Kittle is definitely going to be the guy I'm taking after Kelsey. I would definitely lump both Kelsey and Kittle for me. Even though Kittle is a tier 2 guy, I will take them in my lump of wide receivers. Out 100%. Tier 3, it's just extensive. I love how I agree with you on Hawkinson. Andrews is definitely the top. Andrews and Waller are definitely my top guys after Kittle. And then after that, it's a crapshoot, and I'm probably not going to take one. I will say, Tebow's going to go quick because there's a lot of fan love there, and people are going to want him to do well, and he very well may. Under that system, nobody knows. That's the thing with Jackson. You don't know, and all those guys are going to get taken way too early. Lawrence and Etienne and Tebow, they're all going off earlier than you thought they were. But it might pay off. It very well could pay off. And then I'm also liking Logan Thomas out of Washington. He's a crossover guy. A lot of guys are crossing over. Wide receivers and quarterbacks are crossing over. They really like him. He's putting up numbers. He's showing up good in practice.
And he's looked good.
Yeah, and I don't mean to skip over Kyle Pitts. He's in my tier, low tier 2 as well. Again, he's an unknown, but there's absolutely no reason that he should not dominate at the tight end position this year. I think it would just be just one of those things where crap happens if he is not a top tier as far as tight ends go, and he's going to be catching balls. He's probably going to go earlier than expected in ADPs as well.
Yeah, I'm actually excited to see where Kyle Pitts lands. Who plays the favorites as a Atlanta fan.
Or a Florida fan.
I want him to succeed. I really do. In my dynasty league, I wanted to trade for him. I just don't have the capital for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's definitely a dynasty guy. Look, if you're playing dynasty, grab yourself some Kyle Pitts because he's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I believe he's going to do well.
I think he's going to be fantastic.
You're going to give up some stuff for him too as well.
Absolutely. And it'll be worth it, I think. So kickers, look, we're not going to spend a lot of time on kickers because, look, kickers are a crapshoot. There is a reason they say to take them last. They do score a lot of points, but look, trying to figure out which kicker is going to be the guy to score a lot of points. Look, you can go back and look historically again, and nobody is there except Justin Tucker. He's the only one that is there. So, and you're going to be able to get Justin Tucker late, except for that one guy who just, and he's not going to be the first kicker off the board. Saunders from Miami is going to be there because he scored so many points last year. I'm looking at the ADPs, and Justin Tucker is just barely edging out being the first one, but you've got Bucker from Kansas City, you've got Koo from Atlanta, Bass from Buffalo. Look, and listen to the names there. Baltimore with Justin Tucker, he's been there forever, and they're expected to do well. Kansas City played in the Super Bowl last year. Bass for Buffalo, Suckup from Tampa Bay is coming in at 8. Greg Zuerlein, because you don't know how Prescott's going to do, probably going to be kicking some field goals. Sanders is getting drafted and high just because of how many he kicked last year. I would not expect him to do as high. And of course, Will Lutz is hurt out for the season. They picked up Brent Mayer, which is probably a good pickup. Definitely raises his value. He's not your top 10 kicker, but he's someone you could, again, grab with that last pick. So don't spend a lot of time on kickers. Look for what teams are going to be successful, can get into the red zone, and see who's there and grab that guy.
Yeah, you don't really need to think too hard about your kickers. One of your last picks, if not the last pick. That's one of those ones, like, play a favorite for your team. Like, hey, I got a kicker from my favorite team. I got him with the last pick. There's no harm. There's no shame in that. I would touch base on a little bit of information though, and it comes very important with kickers, and it's beneficial for your entire team. But when the kickers start kicking in fantasy football playoffs, it's going to be winter time. So if you have a kicker sitting there that plays in a dome, or his last 4, 5, 6 games are dome-esque, there's not going to be a weather situation. You don't want to go in the rain, the snow, the wind. It might help you out, get an extra, 5, 6 points, and that'll just put you over the edge. So pay attention, like, hey, I don't know who to pick. He plays in a dome. Take that one. It's a safe pick. But don't think too hard about a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, look, Atlanta in a dome, right, is on there. Dallas is on there, and I'm looking at ADPs here. Will Lutz was getting drafted before he got hurt. Obviously, he's dropping now, but played in a dome. So, yeah, I mean, dome kickers are great kickers. Green Bay's kicker, Crosby, of course, he's had some big misses that we're going to remember. He's a great kicker, but he plays in Green Bay. Whereas Chicago's kicker plays in the dome. So, but he's still got to play in Green Bay that year as well. So, I agree. Domes are nice. Let's move on to defenses. Now, defenses. Okay, so defenses, number one. Here's what you need to know about defenses. Number one, people are always going to take defenses way before they should. I'm guilty as charged because, look, Pittsburgh defense comes in every year. They're consistent. They're always at the top, usually number 2 to number 3 over the last couple of years, projected to be number 1 or number 2 again this year. So they are just edging out the Rams. On ADP right now, we're talking 1.6 to 1.8 average. So it's 1 or 2 that people are taking between these two. But New England was one of the top scoring players as a defense a couple years back. They were in the top 25 as a defense. It was ridiculous. But these things happen. But don't get too froggy on your defense. Okay, your defense can get you points, but make sure you're filling out you should not be taking a defense before your quarterback. Okay, get that handle. Get your starting running backs taken care of before you start grabbing that defense. But the thing I want you to be careful of here is, look, 2019 number 1 defense was New England. They fell 11 spots. San Francisco's defense in 2019 was number 3. All right. They fell 17 spots last year. 2019, you had teams like Minnesota. You had the Jets were number 7 in 2017. So obviously they dropped. Minnesota went from 6 to number 27 last year. The Jets went from 7 to 25. We mentioned San Francisco. They went from 3 to 20. So, you got to be careful with this stuff. At the same time, honestly, go with what the experts are saying, because they do a lot more homework than we do. So when they tell you that the Rams and the Steelers are probably going to be two of the best defenses this year, look, they may not go number 1 and 2, but they're going to be on the board. They're going to be in the top 5, at least the top 10. Everybody's not sure about Indianapolis, and it's a good thing not to be sure about, especially with Wentz going down. They're going to be on the field a lot. They've definitely lost some players. Miami and Baltimore tying for the 4th spot, if you will, last year. But look, Miami went from the worst defense in the NFL in 2019 up to the 4th best fantasy defense. And not 4th best defense in the NFL. Be careful with that as well. They're 4th best fantasy defense in fantasy football last year. I mean, that's a giant. That's just a ridiculous jump to go from the worst defense to the 4th best. Other notable defenses this year, everybody's looking at Washington to come in real good. Buffalo, probably not top 10. They should be down there, but they'll finish you out in a 12-team league. And of course, Tampa's doing well. They went from 10 to 9 by fantasy numbers. Arizona jumping from 29 to 10th. They were the 13th best defense, but 10th for fantasy-wise. Look, San Francisco, Green Bay, and the Chargers, they were top 10 for NFL, not in the top 10 for fantasy. So know your scoring, do your homework and know your scoring. Just because San Francisco finished as a top defense, a top tier, top 10 defense, does not mean that they're going to get you your fantasy points. So be careful with that. I like to go with the experts. I'm putting in my top tier the Rams. I'm putting Pittsburgh in there. I actually have Baltimore in there as well. You could call Baltimore the start of my tier 2, I suppose, along with probably Tampa and Washington. I really like the way Washington looks. They seem hungry. They play hard. And I think they're probably going to do something this year.
Yeah, I actually do like your picks. I hope that when we draft, I pick right before you, and I can take the Steelers. That would just be, really,
yeah, just
really
dig it
good
in.
for me.
Happens every year. Don't worry about it.
So, like you said, some people play favorites, and especially if you know the person really well next to you, you can go ahead and snipe that team from them. When it comes to kickers and defense, they are at the end. And like you were touching on with, what was it, Miami?
Yeah.
They're not even ranked in the top 10 for this year's, and depending on what.
They're coming in with a 11.4 average ADP for the 10th spot. So people are looking at it, but honestly, the range runs from 6th to 16th for the different sites. So
and they're not even getting respect. So right there, they're like, all right, well, we came in 4th, fine, but if you're looking for a defense and they're still sitting there, and you were taking, your favorite players or a flyer or someone who's like, hey, I like this rookie. I saw something that I liked in playoffs or the preseason. They're going to still be sitting there. So you can take them with your, second to last pick, and then your kicker in your last pick, and be perfectly fine settling there. And like I said, your team is going to change. It's not, week 1 is going to look a lot different than right before the playoffs.
It better.
You don't have that defense anymore. You're probably not going to have that kicker anymore unless your bench is terrible. So just pay attention to that. Like, don't get too set on these teams. You're going to have players that are really, really good, and they go points, and then you're like, well, I'm tired of him riding my bench. I'm going to put him in. He does nothing. So it's okay if a player's not performing. It's okay to drop them. Stay away from your earlier round guys. Try to trade them and get something for them. Don't just start dropping players for no reason out of nowhere. And, you're not going to drop DK Metcalf. It's just not going to happen. If he has 2 bad games, okay. You just, set him on your bench when he's playing that tough defense and cry a little bit and then move on.
That's it. Why did I do that? Yeah. Hey, look, man, you bring up some great points. I think we've covered a lot of great things today. I want to go out on this. I got to listen to it. It's got to be what takes us out as we do this. I got to thank Rob Machado again for putting that together for us. Look for more things as it goes. As the season goes, he's already volunteered to do a concert for us come playoff time. So It's just going to be real special. It's going to get real good. Go look him up on Reverb Nation. I'll bring that back in a second. Coming weeks, guys, hey, we're going to be talking about handcuffs and stacks. We're going to be talking about all those other players in the tier 2s, tier 3s next week. You're not going to want to miss that. We'll talk about the sleepers and the flyers, but really those start coming in tier 3, tier 4. We're going to talk about how the tiers are changing throughout the preseason. We'll talk about the changing ADPs, who you're looking forward this year. I'm personally looking forward to see how Burrow's going to do. Great setup down there from receiver perspective. He was doing well before he went down. Obviously, everybody's looking down there in Jacksonville for Lawrence and Meyer. And we want to know how your draft went. Look, if you guys have stuff going on, let us know how your draft went. Send us your questions, your comments. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on Twitter. God, we're just everywhere, man.
Yeah, just have some fun with it. Don't worry about the draft. Do it in a couple of weeks. We'll be here. We'll be talking about it. And, follow us, comment, tell us what we did wrong, what we can do better, what you want to hear, and move and ask the questions that you want to ask. And I'm Roop. There it is. Follow me at Mr. Football Today. I'll answer your questions as fast as I can. Doesn't matter if it's drafting, trades, all throughout the season. We'll be here and answering anything that you need. And my wonderful host, Chris Fox, take this home.
Hey, thanks. Hey, again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. We will be here.
What's going on?
Be here with us. Oh, sorry about that. That was wrong, Machado. Talking to you guys, want to know what's up. Letting you guys know to watch Yards After the Catch as well. It's been a great week, and we look forward to more weeks and spending it here with you. Hit us up, yackingfootball@gmail.com. You can also hit that at Twitter. We are Yards After the Catch on Facebook if you're watching us there right now. Join the group as well. Send us your questions, comments, and tell us we suck. We don't care. Just don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe.
Where's our first hater at?
That's right. I love it. It's okay. We'll be here all season. We'll go toe-to-toe with you, and you'll probably win a few rounds as well. So, again, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to Yards After the Catch. Best of luck with your fantasy season, and we will see you next time.